Welcome, 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 heroes, to the Outlaws Outpost, your unofficial guide to the best Overwatch League team. Brought to you by the Surly Nerd Podcast and the official Houston Outlaws supporter group, the Lone Star Vanguard. I'm your host, James, and with me today from the Lone Star Vanguard is Joe, aka Nubatron,
Howdy.
and Jake, aka Tuna.
Yo!
And today we're joined by a very special guest, Jesse, aka JAG, the social media manager for the Outlaws. Hey, welcome to the show.
Hello, thank you so much for having me on here. I'm really excited to talk to you guys tonight. It's going to be a really fun time.
I'm really hoping so. We've prepared some questions for you. Hopefully, they're not too difficult. Hopefully, they're enjoyable to answer for us. So, Jesse, you have a degree in journalism. And from what I understand, you've worked in copywriting and you've even been a door to door salesman. How did the work experience of your past kind of prepare you for the challenge of kind of being the Outlaws social media manager?
Yeah, let's pretend the door-to-door salesman stuff didn't happen. Yeah, it was an interesting time. I was actually about to just go to college, I think, as a freshman, so I was just trying to, get some money for the summer. But I think that actually, as much as I can joke about it, really helped me kind of develop my voice and style and stuff. Because when you're doing something like that, you're selling yourself more than you're selling a product.
So
I
you
was selling.
see, you say that, but you say like, oh, let's
Yeah.
like negate the door to door salesman thing here. But that is exactly what a door to door salesman does. They
Yeah.
do sell themselves, so that you can't discount that experience.
I guess like I don't know, it just isn't it's not my fondest memory because I've always been kind of I wouldn't say I'm shy, but like it's kind of, I don't like cold calling.
Mhm.
But so I'm glad I did it, but I'm also like I kind of want to pretend it didn't happen, It's kind of this mixed signal weird thing because it led to me realizing like I can do marketing on like one level, which is kind of myself and then the product. And then you apply it to some of the other stuff I did later, like copywriting. That's all about marketing a brand.
Mhm.
I did it for T. Rowe Price. I did it for Boston Consulting Group. And I did it a little bit in esports for other social media and stuff. I was working for the Charlotte Phoenix for a little bit. I was just with the Revival before I
Wow.
joined the Outlaws. So I think all of that kind of step by step led me to where I am now, where you're just creating a persona, I would say almost. And then you're just using all these different channels and all these different mediums to put together content that echo that persona.
Yeah, I mean, building your brand, right? That is such an understatement of what needs to be done, especially to be successful in your space.
Mhm.
But I think here the real question to be asked is, was it knives, vacuum cleaners, or what was it that you were selling when you were doing door-to-door sales? If you don't mind me asking.
It was full cutlery kits, so like
Okay.
very
It.
like fancy, like forks, knives,
Mhm.
spoons, the whole nine yards. And those things like they went for like $1,000. So like I'd only get like one or two sales a week, and like I'd already be making I'd making a lot of money off it. Like the commission rose every time I sold, and then I got to actually keep my demo kit for pretty cheap. So
Oh wow, nice.
not yeah, I gave it to my parents. They had a lot more use for it than I did at the
I-
time.
So, you want to know why you should always be nice to door-to-door salesmen?
Let me know.
They know where you live.
I think the
I
thing
did
that-
it. I did it for 2 years.
I think the thing that blew my mind the most about this when I was kind of reading a little bit about your background is my first thought was door to door salesmen still fucking exist? like,
Yeah,
like-
but it's tough, man. So props to you. I mean, I know
yeah,
I've never done it, but I know that must be a difficult position to be in, And
yeah, it's absolutely.
I reckon
But
so.
you learn about a lot about yourself in that kind of position, and it is selling yourself, and there's a certain amount of confidence you have to have going into something like that. And I think that's definitely something that that kind of confidence is something that you need as the social media manager of the Outlaws, but we will come back to that. So, in my experiences, with the experiences that you've had in life, what is it about esports specifically that, like, said, this is where I want my career to be? Like, you've done all of these vast array of things, and now you're at some point you honed it in and said, like, esports is like the place I want to be in life.
So I know I wanted to work in sports basically since high school.
Okay.
I wasn't really into esports actually until my third year of college. I was studying, and I feel like I've told this story so many times, but I was studying in London at the time. I was studying abroad during the first season of the Overwatch League, and the Boston Uprising, they were owned by the Patriots. I've been a Patriots fan my whole life because my family's from New England and I lived there for most of my life as well. So I was like, you know what, I want to see what they're about because I was playing Overwatch very casually at the time.
Mhm.
And I just remember I watched opening week season 1 and I got hooked immediately. I was like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life. Blizzard Arena, the fans, the players, like the personalities, the branding. Like I was just like, I need to get here some way, somehow, someday. And as time went on, I kind of expanded myself. Like I got into League, I got into Valorant, which is pretty new. I looked into Rocket League, Fortnite. So I was kind of exploring different esports scenes. I played a little bit also competitively in Overwatch for collegiate. And I was actually for Revival. I did do a little bit of Overwatch stuff for them, but I was mostly doing League. For the Charlotte Phoenix, I was doing Valorant mostly. So this is really my first like deep dive, not only into like tier 1 esports as a professional, but also as just a social media manager for an Overwatch team. But it's always been my first love. So being able to do this, it's just a dream come true. As cliche as that might sound.
Well, that's completely understandable. And I mean, Overwatch League is that thing that brings us together. I mean, everybody that's sitting here on this panel right now, we all got together, and it's because of the Overwatch League that we do the show. It's the reason the Lone Star Vanguard exists. I mean, at one point, we were just a bunch of scrubs who went to a bar together to watch Overwatch League, and now here we are 3 years later. So, Overwatch League, building friendships one at a time.
Yeah, and bridging gaps. Obviously, but I know I remember when I first started hosting the watch parties in Austin, it was mostly of there's got to be 10 other nerds, right? Like I didn't have a ton of friends here in Austin when I first got here, so I was, maybe you can find, or we can find maybe like 2 or 3 cool folks that were like, hey, you know what, like we kind of like the same stuff, like let's be friends, let's hang out. And very quickly on, they realized it's like, gamers typically are a little bit shy, a little bit more shy, right? Like, so I was like, okay, like if I'm gonna have to be the person that's gonna like welcome everyone at the door and then just kind of like help people just, like embrace what they like and kind of be a bit more vocal about it or just be a little bit more outgoing, hey, then that's my role. And here we are 3 years later, and having a podcast, talking about just like Overwatch League and Overwatch League related stuff. So totally get it, man.
Jag, are you like a Red Sox fan?
Yeah, so I want to take a step back. My family's from Boston. I was born in Boston, but I actually grew up in Seattle. So like I always say Seattle's my hometown because I was there from like 4 to 11. But I have spent most of my life in the Boston area, so I kind of have this weird relationship where I'm a Seattle fan as well. So like Mariners, Seahawks, the new NHL team when it gets there. Yeah, the Sounders. Though the Revolution are doing a lot better now. But yes, I am a Red Sox fan.
So when the Seahawks were playing the Patriots,
I was rooting for the Patriots because Brady, I didn't think Brady had that much more in him, and clearly he has proven me very wrong because he's still going to just won a Super Bowl of Tampa Bay. So I was like, Russell Wilson, he's got a whole career ahead of him. Like he'll win again in the future. So I was really excited. I mean, if the Seahawks won, I wouldn't have been sad, like it would have been a win-win. But in that matchup, I was rooting for the Patriots a bit more.
I totally get where you're coming from, though, because I was kind of born and raised in Houston, but during the summers, my parents would kind of pick me up and send me off to my grandparents' place in Michigan. So I have this kind of like duality to my life where, like part of me is like, Texas and part of me is Michigan. And honestly, Michigan has the better sports teams. not to be that guy. I'm a Red Wings fan, and they've always done right by me, I felt like, so.
Yeah, that's
the Lions from Michigan.
Yes, and they used to be good. They used to be good when I was a kid. We had Barry Sanders, and it was awesome. So, so let's deviate from esports and Overwatch real quick. I want to know some more about you. So you once said that Incubus's album Morning View makes you feel like you're floating on air. What is it about them that makes them so iconic in your mind?
So it's interesting because I actually have never listened to Incubus's first 2 albums. Like I know one of them, I think the second one's called Science, and it's like very different and very kind of like, I would say, I guess more aggressive than their later stuff. I really listened to their third album, which is, Drive and Pardon Me and some other songs, but there's something about Morning View that I connect with. So I'm a musician myself. And I also have this condition called synesthesia. I think that's how it's pronounced. I actually don't know, but basically I see music through color. So when I hear a certain key of a song, I kind of associate that with a color. And then I also can associate it with a place. So Morning View, specifically, there's one song on it called Mexico that I really it reminds me of being in Spain, right outside of Girona at my ex's house. They had this beautiful vacation house that their family owned there. Just like sitting there, it's on this huge like hill, it's an infinity pool like that goes off the side of the hill. It just reminds me of that moment in time, and it's so beautiful, and it kind of makes me feel like, I'm there in the hot sun and everything is all right in the world.
Nice. I love
I
that.
think there's a Lucio song called that Synesthesia.
It's called Synesthesia, yeah.
There's like a Lucio album or song that's like named that.
So, as a longtime Boston Uprising fan, how have you been adjusting to the Houston fandom? Because we are pretty well known for being really intense as fans.
I love it, honestly. I love that people are passionate because coming from Boston, I remember season one, like I was in London for most of it, but I was back in Boston just in time for playoffs.
Mhm.
So I got to go to a watch party. It was the playoff game between Boston and Philly. And it was like, they lost the first one and then they had the second and third one. I was there for the second one only. And it was just jam packed. It was, wall to wall people were there. Everyone's in uprising gear. It was an amazing experience. And haven't really felt that since then. I feel like the Uprising unfortunately have taken a bit of a downturn. I think they'll do a lot better this season. Their roster looks really good, but I remember like season 2, there was a lot of hope. And then, halfway through you lose Note, you lose Gamsu. Calix is still there, but then he leaves next season. You get rid of Neko before the season even starts. And although Aim God's really good, it's not the same, right? And I think Note leaving halfway through the season when he got traded to Dallas was kind of like where things really started to, not look as good. And the fandom, it's still there and it exists, and there's a lot of proud people in it, but it wasn't the same. Like I didn't feel the same level of excitement. Like season 3, like obviously, COVID, that changes a lot of things, but in general, like it was just very much a whimper, I felt like. And I was actually at the the toilet bowl, I guess is what we were calling it, is what Brennan Sideshow used to call it. I was at the 7 map game. I was in DC as an
man.
Uprising fan for that game against Houston. And that was like, there was like, I don't know, 12 of us. Like there was more than that, but there's like 12 very vocal fans in the audience, and we were like losing our minds over it. But I remember seeing a lot of Houston fans there, which really shocked me because Boston is way closer to DC than Texas is. They were there and they were disappointed, but they were there and they were loud for the maps they won. And I guess the TLDR is, it's very exciting and also very terrifying when you are in charge of the brand identity, because you want the team to do well and you want to be able to put out good news, but sometimes it just isn't what's going to happen. And I hope personally, at least, that I won't take the brunt for it, because I just gotta, tell it how it is sometimes.
Yeah, we just get really loud sometimes, and you just have to kind of realize that we get loud because we love our team.
And I mean, we travel well, honestly. I mean, it's just, I think people just all over the, all over the Overwatch, just, love the brand, love the colors, so not surprised, but
I'm picturing 12. I'm picturing 12 Boston fans at the Justice event, just going crazy, and everyone's looking over at y'all like, "Dude, can you wrap this up, please?"
I was playing on like just a for fun team at the time called the Hanamura Hellhounds, and we went together. We were all from all over the Eastern Seaboard, so it was really cool that we could all like meet up and like get a house together, hang out that weekend. And none of them were Uprising fans except me, and they were like falling asleep next to me actively as I'm like losing my mind. And then my friends back in Boston were like, "Dude, I'm pretty sure I just heard you screaming on Twitch." And I was like, "Yes, I made it. This is my moment."
That was a memorable game. I know it was exhausting, both physically and emotionally, but I mean, instant classic, right? I mean, I would watch that.
Iconic.
Personally, yeah.
He said toilet bowl, and I knew exactly what he was talking about, dude. I go, "Oh yeah, the Boston Outlaws game."
Well, I mean, at the same time, I mean, let's be honest. I mean, we've as Outlaws fans too, we also felt gutted when a lot of the team started kind of getting traded away, and
yeah, we take things really personally,
right?
But yeah, I mean, Boston's had such a great history. I mean, I remember seeing Boston that first season of Overwatch League and being like, "Oh wow, like these guys are going to do some damage."
Yeah, it's interesting because I remember the first season, like no one had any hype around them. Like everyone thought they'd be last place, and then they just had really great scouting. And obviously there are some unfortunate things that happened. So we don't have to go over it. I think we all know what we're talking about. And then even when Mistakes came in though, Mistakes, like he went from being basically a tracer one trick to being like this amazing projectile DPS player. His Genji was really good. His Pharah was really good. So it was just like, oh, there were so much good things coming into season 2. And they're like, all right, no, we're not resigning Mistakes. We're trading Gamsu away. I was actually really excited about Axiom. And I think this is like, I mean, Fusions is a great Reinhardt. Don't get me wrong. I think Fusions is also an amazing guy, but I just really, really wanted to see Axiom play. And that's why I think seeing him, in DC during that one game was so exciting because he didn't really get to play after that. I think, now he's out of the league. I know he had some health issues, and I hope everything's okay with that now. But I was a huge Axiom fan because I was super into Overwatch in general. Like I was watching Contenders, so Toronto Esports. I watched them and they were the academy team, and I was super excited for like Axiom, Nero, Shu, like all those guys, Cruz. So like I really wanted to like kind of see where their careers went, and it was just a shame that Axiom didn't really get a chance to shine, and then things didn't go super well season 2 and 3.
So you've played and casted for like a wide range of games, from League of Legends to even Rocket League. But in your experience, having gotten the opportunity to cast for all of those, who do you think actually has the least toxic fandom?
So we're just talking like this is just only from casting, not from like playing.
I mean, it could be from both. I wouldn't mind your opinion about both.
Okay, least.
I was trying to keep it positive around.
Yeah.
Good
I'm gonna say
vibes.
Rocket League, honestly.
That seems like a game where everybody would be like super just be happy to play with each other.
I think when it's, when there's a lot of things on the line, people can get a bit more heated in game, but usually it's nothing too, astute, nothing too crazy. I've seen in other sports, teams basically just yelling at each other in all chat. And luckily, like, the stream can't see it, but we might be able to see it if we're in game or something like that. And you're like, please, like, calm down, like you don't want this to accidentally like get on like live stream if you're like just dropping F-bombs left and right. But no, Rocket League is just, I feel like, I don't know, it's not like a casual game by any means, it's still a very competitive game, but I think the way it works where it's kind of, everyone always compares it to soccer. I actually like to compare it to hockey because it's much more fast paced. And in hockey, things get really aggressive really quickly. That's why they fight, I guess. And we're just like, yeah, that's normal. I love hockey, by the way, so I'm not taking a jab at it, but it just always has been like, why do we let them do this? And in football, they're like, break it up, immediately. But in Rocket League, usually like it's like once the map is over, if there's any toxicity, that's when it's gonna happen. Because it's usually like a first to 3 or a first to 2. So there's very little downtime. Like that's when it'll happen very briefly. But other than that, like it's just pedal to the metal. There's no time to really trash talk.
Yeah, I think everyone here is familiar with all of the League of Legends like memes out there of like your teammates being super toxic to you during the game. It's like, that's how we're playing against the computer. Like, I don't know how to play. I'm learning how to play. Why are you yelling at? Why are you flaming me? Why are you yelling at me? But and I definitely agree with you that Rocket League is definitely a lot more like hockey, even though I mean, you have so many things flying around. People are there's a car in the air doing 360 flips. And yeah, I don't understand Rocket League. I played it for a little bit on PS4 and I had fun with it. But I mean, some of the stuff that people do on Rocket League is insane.
It's very impressive.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, it definitely reminds me of hockey more than soccer for sure.
There's nothing that like gets me more excited than as a caster is like a really nice aerial play where like maybe they're just like they're like basically on the roof and they're just like dribbling it over and over and then like all of a sudden just like get it right into the corner and like 3 people try to stop it but no one hits it. Like plays like that. I've never actually, it's a fun fact, I've never played Rocket League, but I was casting it and I was just like, man, like I could never do that in a million years even if I tried.
Yeah, the way that they juggle the ball in the air and then like do a sideways flip and it's nuts. It's insane.
So I remember when Rocket League came out and it was PlayStation free. And so it immediately blew up. And I remember playing it for the first time and everyone was just like on the ground hitting the ball. And then like a week later, like everyone sees like Superman fly through the sky and we go, whoa. We're like, you can do that? It was crazy. And then all of a sudden I had to like stop playing because the skill gap was insane.
Yeah.
But like watching it go, like same with Fortnite, like watching it go from like day 1 to a huge skill gap.
Everyone started cranking 90s.
Really, it was like, it's kind of priceless to have been there. So
I feel that way, in my downtime, I play a lot of fighting games and I always tell myself like, yeah, I think I'm good enough to like go to Evo and compete. And then I like watch Evo every year and then I go, maybe it's better I stayed home this year.
That's just, there's always going to be like, another mountain to climb. Like I remember when Fortnite first came out, I was pretty good at it on console before I started playing on PC a few years later. And then I like went away and I came back like 3 months later and I was like, I don't know how to build anymore. Like this is crazy.
You can't stop with Fortnite.
Yeah, that's a constant progression at all times.
You can't stop.
Yeah. So as somebody who's played all the Mass Effect games back to back, on a scale of 1 to 10, how hyped are you for the Mass Effect re-release? And how do you feel about the changes that are being made to the games to make the trilogy feel more connected in terms of gameplay and cohesion?
So I would say I'm a solid 10 for the first game being remastered, and I'm like maybe a 7.5 for the other two, because I feel like Mass Effect 2 and 3 still play really well to this day, even though they're
Okay.
pretty old at this point. You know, I think Mass Effect 2 came out in like what, 2000, I want to say 11, something like that. Maybe it's even older than that, but it feels really good. But Mass Effect 1 is always, I'm one of those people who like, I'll replay the whole campaign through all three games. And Mass Effect 1 feels just, it felt like I don't even describe it. It felt like stepping on glass, basically. It was just so painful, the gameplay and the graphics, and everything is slow as dirt. The elevators take forever.
That's why I never played another Mass Effect game. I started the first one, got to the
Wow.
elevators, and I was like, nope, turning that off.
They got rid of it in the other two, but it's
Mm.
definitely like a mute point still to this day. So, I mean, the gameplay is going to be basically the same. I know they said that they've got like rid of class restrictions from the first one, but they're still doing this thing where in the first game it's kind of like Halo, where it's like your gun can overheat if you fire it too much. But in
Mm.
every other game, it's ammo that you just pick up off the ground. But they left that in the first one for some reason. But I think that in general, I'm just gonna get it for the first game, just because the first game still has an amazing storyline. I would say actually it's probably better than two in terms of story.
Wow.
I think three is the best until the end. But
That's a big
one,
point. That ending was a very big point of controversy for a lot of people. So
yeah,
What are they doing in Mass Effect?
they're remastering it,
Just 3 or
all of it.
all of them.
all
of them.
3?
Yeah.
Andromeda 2?
Never played any single one of them.
I've heard that this is probably the version you want to pick up if you've never played a Mass Effect game before. So I will finally kneel to my friends that have all said you really should give the game a shot. Maybe with a remaster, I'll pick it up and give it the honest go.
I'll say this, and I know that you're a big BioShock fan as well. BioShock is probably my favorite game series of all time. Mass Effect is number 2.
Okay.
So I
That's
think it's right up
big
there.
points. That's big points
Yeah.
for me.
Did,
And
did
yeah.
they still do a first person mode at all?
it's
maybe?
third person.
Yeah.
Only third?
Yeah.
I'm not a third person fan.
You got to step up your game.
Well, GTA said, hey, our new re-release is going to have a first person mode. And that was like a really big deal to me.
So let's bring it back to Overwatch real quick. I actually, as somebody who's kind of worked around Overwatch for as long as you have and has been a fan of the Overwatch League, I'm really curious how important you think the existence of Overwatch contenders is to the long-term health of the Overwatch League.
I think it is incredibly important, and I really wish that I wish Overwatch League teams were required to have academy teams. I know it's expensive, and I think a big problem is that the buy-in is so much that is money that could have been going towards an academy team, for example.
Mhm.
But I mean, you look at other esports like League, and I actually wrote about this in the Discord, I think today, but in the LCS finals, Team Liquid, their jungler was sick, he couldn't play, and then their academy team is right there on the ground, so they put him in. They won semifinals in the lower bracket. They almost won the finals with their backup, and I think you look right now, and I don't mean to go after Dallas Fuel, who are our rivals, but I still have a lot of respect for them and the people
Absolutely.
over there. It sucks that they're losing Xe. He's an amazing player. I loved watching him last year on Paris.
Yeah.
But now they're kind of scrambling, right? Like now they've got to find someone right now. And if they still had Team Envy as in a contenders team, like maybe they have someone on the ground, or at least in the States, who can, be shifted over pretty quickly. But now you got to run trials. Now you got to try to find someone. Like, I don't know if they'll have anyone in time for Friday, or if they'll try to shoot for their next game this week, or maybe they'll just run, Doha and Xe and then hope that they can find someone in the future. It's really tough. So there's like kind of that immediate factor of you can, find someone to bring up to the Overwatch League level. But if we're not developing the talent of tomorrow, who's going to be in the league? I mean, you look at the season 1 rosters, how many people are left? Not a ton of people anymore, but where are they coming from? Mostly from APAC, NA, EU. You're not finding all these new rookies coming in, which is really unfortunate because there's still a lot of great talent in this region. And I'm thinking, man, like these people in American Tornado, they're so good, but when they get their shot, if ever.
Yeah,
That's true.
Absolutely. I can't agree with you more. I mean, I'm a huge MLS guy, right? And I watch soccer all across the world, and it's a matter of it's so important. Having a developmental academy is crucial to the longevity of. I mean, not only your brand, right? You your homegrown players that like live and die that to play for you, and also, I mean, you hear about kind of like with Eggsy what he said, whenever he with his announcement today, how I mean, the guy didn't have a break. I mean, even though he was playing hurt, he was playing injured. And being able to kind of give some of your stuff. I mean, some of your starters a break too, right? Throughout the season, and we saw it. I mean, well, you see it a lot, especially in esports, right? Where one individual, one player grinds out the game for endless amount of hours, without a break. I mean, and that could just be so taxing for your mental health, and obviously your physical health as well. So having someone that can step up for you that's familiar, might be familiar with their system, at a moment's notice is, I mean, rather invaluable. So, I mean, I'm right there with you.
And
And
it really kind of hurt my heart to hear all this kind of news coming out of Dallas because, yes, I'm a Houston fan who wants Houston to win, but I also want us to win against Dallas at peak performance. And I feel like that it's going to be a rough go because maybe Dallas isn't at peak performance right now because of all of this.
Well, they still got some pretty good.
They got some great.
They still got
talent.
sparkle.
They still got some great talent. Don't get me wrong, but it's maybe there was a situation where they needed a swap and they don't have somebody for that now.
yeah, and it's gonna be like no matter how it goes, like even if they do find someone in time, it's gonna be very hard to put them to a roster that's been practicing together for so long. And I just want to say one more thing before we jump topics here. That's not really fuel related, but it really hurt my heart to see both Pacific and South American contenders just get kind of thrown into the void. Because there's some really good players that have come from both of those regions. And now, if you're a player, like if you're in the Pacific, like it's actually not, I guess, too bad because you could move to Australia or Korea or China, potentially one of those contenders regions. But if you're in South America, like where do you go as an Overwatch player? Like if you've been grinding this game for years, your career is probably just going to be done just because there's no more places to play. Like maybe you find a North American team, but ping can be a huge issue, especially, depending on what country you're playing in. So it's just, yeah, there's just a lot of things that are happening contenders that I'm, not happy with as a fan. But I will say that I think Monkey Bubble, from a production perspective, is doing an amazing job with NA and EU. I was very impressed with how they did stuff for the Marches tournaments, and I think it brought in a lot more viewership and exposure to those players.
So we know that you were a Boston fan. Obviously, you're here with Houston now. Do you actually have a favorite non-American Overwatch League team?
I used to. It used to be the Guangzhou Charge, and I say that because they got Nero and Shu, who again were coming from Toronto Esports. So I was, trying to root for previous, Boston Academy boys, and I love kind of watching them. And they had some really cool players. I'm also a huge fan of Krong. I think Krong's an amazing off tank. Now that both of them are gone, I don't really have any teams in particular. I guess I would say I'm a Shanghai fan just because like it's amazing. Like the story of Shanghai is incredible. And I know that's kind of like jumping on the bandwagon, but I was really happy that Gamsu got to, when he was still in the league, like Gamsu got to kind of be a part of that. Like in season 2, like I feel like him joining them really gave them a huge buff, and that's why they're able to win one of the stage tournaments back then. And then, the roster's changed a bit since then. Fleta is just an amazing player, and now they've got Fate, who I think, Fate I think is a very underrated main tank. Like Fearless obviously is amazing, but I think Fate will just, bring this team to maybe even newer heights. And I think that this is going to be a hot take. I think them or Gladiators currently have the best shot at winning the league.
Really?
Okay.
Oh, that is a hot take.
I would put Shaka right below them.
Those are fighting words.
I would say that, I don't think that you're jumping on any bandwagon because, I mean, heck, even when Shanghai wasn't doing well, everyone was rooting for Shanghai. I remember going to Blizzard Arena season 1, and everyone, even though they had the losing record, everyone was buying like Shanghai jerseys, swapping out between like matches or whatever just to root them on.
They were lovable losers season 1.
Yeah.
And now they have MVP in the league. MVP of season 3 was on their team.
Oh.
So I know that you have a music side hustle and you released one of your tracks publicly to SoundCloud. So I'm actually kind of curious. What would you say is the most culturally important album of the last decade?
How long is a decade again?
10 years.
10 years. None of them, honestly.
Really?
This is a tricky one because most of my music, I feel like that I listen to is probably from like the late 2000s to like early to late 90s. I really like grunge. Like I'm a huge Nirvana fan. I really like early Foo Fighters, Queens of the Stone Age, Incubus, as we talked about earlier. Audioslave is actually a band I've been listening to a lot lately. But if I had to choose from the last 10 years,
Like a Stone, good song.
Like a Stone's an amazing song. I'm gonna choose an album and a band that you've probably never heard of. It's called Peripheral Vision by a band called Turnover. They're from Pennsylvania. They're not popular at all, at least like in the mainstream. Like they're pretty popular in like the indie rock community. But it got me into this genre called shoegaze, which was really popular in the 80s in the UK. It's kind of like dream pop's another name for it. It's this very ethereal kind of spacey rock sound where it can be very light or it can be very like more heavy, but the whole idea is it's very like it's like an experience more than a song is the way I would describe it. And I've kind of gone into a lot of bands that have a similar vibe since then. And it's just an amazing listen. There's a song called New Scream, and it is like the minute you hear the first guitar hit, like that first note, you're just like, this is gonna be a banger, and absolutely is a banger.
Wow. All right.
I love that you mentioned that, how it's a very like spacey, makes you feel a certain way, and you associate that with, with the topic that we were talking about earlier, how music makes you feel. So the fact that that you like the specific genre that by the way, I'm gonna be honest, I've never heard of it before, but I'm gonna open my Spotify and try to find some of the stuff right after this.
I have a whole playlist I could send you after this.
Nice.
Please
It's like
send
around
it my
that
way.
genre.
Yeah,
I will.
absolutely.
Send it my way.
Please do.
I'm more of the kind of I'm a mood person. I have to be in a certain mood to like be listening to something. Like when I'm walking my dog or something, or it's cold outside, I have to have like a Skyrim playlist or a D&D ambient playlist, just because it's like walking, you're like looking at everything kind of go by. But totally feel it, man. There's got to be a vibe.
I would say this is like it's like raining and it's like, dark out, and it's like kind of like it's just very chill, and you're kind of like, I want to like kind of just vibe. That's kind of the way I would describe it. And it's not just like brainless music though. Like it makes you think about stuff, but it's a very good sort of thinking. Like it's it's very like you're at peace with what's going on.
All right. Well, I absolutely love that, and I'm a big fan of like ambient music or music that just kind of gets you like into a certain space. So very good answer, actually. I was I was really curious about that one.
Tuna has some pretty good music too.
I
song?
love music. Yeah.
What's your
so
what's
2
your-
Feet is my favorite artist right now, and he has an album coming out in like 3 days.
Guys, are we starting a music swap group? Is that what's happening here?
I love music, and I don't have children, but I have Spotify playlists.
So what's your
Same
favorite?
thing.
What would be your most influential album, Tuna? Then
Last
Well,
decade.
Well, influential. I don't like music. I like music that people really haven't heard of. Like I just saved Turnover. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
I just saved that album, Peripheral Vision. I just saved that, and I'll listen to it at some point. But to me, I don't know. My favorite album in the last 10 years, I don't know. What I've been doing is I've been like taking all my favorite, so every year, so 2018, 2019, 2020, all my favorite songs from that year, and now I'm organizing them so that I can go to that year, I can go to my favorite songs from that year. And it's really kind of like painting a picture of how music has like evolved over the years. And it's been a really fun project. And I'm starting to get down to 2016 and 15 and 14. And it's been really, really exciting. So I don't know. For me, 2 Feet is like my most exciting artist right now. And Pink, his album Pink was like really, really good. So I'll just say Pink by 2 Feet. But in 3 days that could change because he has another album coming out.
That's fair.
It's the album with Fire that you like, that song.
Yes.
You like that Fire. So
Fire by 2 Feet.
that
Great
album
song.
actually comes out in like this week. So
Good to know.
we'll see.
So, with being a fan of all things Boston, the Bruins are obviously your go-to hockey team. So, I'm kind of curious, what valuable lessons do you think that Overwatch players could take away from hockey strategies?
So I actually would say that Northeastern University's hockey team is my favorite hockey team just because I was an alma mater there. I do love the Bruins as well, but I have gone to so many Northeastern games. And like it was really nice because Northeastern, it's free for students to go, and then just a nice like Friday, Saturday night activity with the friends. Unfortunately, get COVID, so couldn't do it in my last semester a ton, which is really unfortunate. But I think the biggest thing they could learn is you gotta. I'm trying to think, like, is this in game? Is this like just on social media? Is this like in life?
I mean, what about, so when I was originally thinking about it, I was thinking about like in game, right? Because I do enjoy going to a good Red Wings game when I can. And it looks like chaos when you're watching the action unfold, but like the players have a lot of, they practice for long periods of time. They have a form of communication that, we just don't recognize essentially.
Yeah, so going off of that, and also like I still have no idea how they do line swaps. Like I know there's a system, and I'm like you're basically timing yourself in your head. And I'm like, man, how do you do that? Like when you're on the ice. But I think the biggest thing is just you can't take 1v1s. You notice sometimes when players get really chippy on the ice, then like I know like a lot of, like for Pasternak, I guess is someone that gets really targeted on the Bruin, and he usually isn't the one fighting. But, his teammates usually the ones defending him. But like I guess Brad Marchand would probably be a better example. He causes chaos and he makes other players mad on other teams, and they'll be so distracted with trying to get him back that they'll completely lose sight of the objective, which whether that's trying to score or trying to defend. And I think that can happen in Overwatch. If there's a little bit of chirping, whether it's in game or on social media, you want to shut someone up, you want to kind of prove them wrong. But when you're trying to take that duel, instead of trying to play, because Overwatch is an objective based game. At the end of the day, kills can get you so much, but if you're not on the point, then you lose the game anyway. So you gotta make sure that you don't get distracted with trying to prove someone wrong, shut them up. You just gotta play with your team.
Yep.
I completely agree. So I want to get to the heavy hitting stuff because we're getting towards the end of all of this. So as someone who's worked in and around esports for most of your life, I've noticed that you keep a fairly upbeat, positive attitude across social media. And also, I know the internet can be a rough place. So I want to know, what advice would you give to people who want to get into social media management for keeping their spirits up in the face of like the dreaded comment sections of posts?
I mean, I think you just gotta drown out negative comments for the most part, because a lot of the time it's not really directed at you, but it's gonna feel personal because you're the one putting the content out there. But like I really just drown out like anything that's negative or just not like kind of want the energy I want to put back out into the world. As a brand, I want to reward our fans, and I want them to feel like they're acknowledged and heard by the Outlaws voice. And I don't want to really give in to people that are just trolling or just trying to be mean or hateful. Like especially if it's hateful, like if it's in like a community that I can like kick them out of, like I don't have any tolerance for that kind of stuff. If it's just like game stuff, like there's just no reason to respond to that, because people that are fans of other teams, they're gonna have their own opinions, and that's just how it is. You kind of gotta let it go by the wayside. I think for me personally, I'm always gonna be my own biggest critic. So I feel like anything that anyone says to me, like it's not gonna hurt because I've probably like already said it to myself 1,000 times, which is like good and bad, because one, like I can get myself down a little bit sometimes if something doesn't do well, but on the same like hand, I guess it's self-motivation to do better in the future.
Okay. So you've said in the past that you're a Boston Uprising fan, but now you're all in on the Outlaws.
Mhm.
So I want to know, what is it about Houston's scrappy team that you think keeps us fans coming back and cheering them on year after year?
I think part of it, I mean, you went over it, like the logo and stuff like that, and the colors, like it's all very exciting. But I think there's just something about Texas that makes it special. I think part of it is the rivalry of Dallas, and I think also just like the brand identity, the attitude, kind of. I mean, the way I've always looked at the Outlaws, regardless of how they're doing, is like, oh, they're badasses. Like that's kind of been the whole like thing, exclamation point. And I think that really draws people to it. And I think even I think one thing that actually kept people around for a while was like it was a very similar team throughout 3 years.
Mhm.
But I think people realize like we need changes. So it's like we're gonna keep like Cool Matt's the general manager now. That's a very familiar face, and he's doing an amazing job. I think he's put together an amazing team. So I think having that familiar face who knows what he's doing, knows the game super well, and knows how to run a team really kept a lot of people on board, had a lot of faith, and keep Dante, keep hydration, you get Jake back. So there's all these familiar faces, but there's all this new amazing talent. And I think that's why people are so excited. And I think, although like people have, kept, the way for these last years, like this is like, this is new life. This is a new start. And I think that's even better than just like, doing the same old, same old.
I mean, to be fair, like, when it came to Houston, and I don't know what it was like for other cities, I can only speak to being an Outlaws fan. But, we had Houston that first year, there were billboards in Houston, these are the Houston Outlaws for the Overwatch League. There was a large event that was put on where they painted a mural in Houston, just to celebrate the Outlaws, that I believe is still there, actually.
Still there, yeah.
Yeah. And that's crazy to think about. And so, yeah, we sit here and say, like, well, we come back to Houston year after year, but it's also because the team has given back to us. They take time to engage with us and meet us on the ground as fans, and not just be like those esports people.
And I mean, if everything that you mentioned, definitely hits home, which I think is also one of the biggest part of the biggest aspects of what keeps drawing us back is we folks here in Texas are very we take a lot of pride in our state, right, and in our teams. I mean, heck, look at we have Texas license plates, we have Texas Texas literal like kitchen plates.
Yep.
We have anything and everything that we can slap a Texas flag on, we're gonna do it. So once you buy into something that says, "Oh, this is my city," or "This represents our state," like I'm all in on that. That's all I care about. Like, and anything you say that otherwise is, I'm gonna, that's personal. I'm taking it personally. Like that Michael Jordan meme, right? It's like Houston's not that good, and I
knew it. I knew you'd bring that up, Noob. You always bring up that damn Michael, and I took that personally.
It's very relevant, to almost everything.
Not a day goes by where you don't bring that damn meme up.
It's just it's like my favorite meme right now.
Jag, one thing you said is that like new blood, new players. Dude, I'm so excited for our tank line. I just want to see them out there, and I want to see them. I'm so excited for our two tanks.
Yeah,
because they have chemistry.
They do, because they've played together before. And I think they've got really good history too. Like, I mean, Jonggu's been really good in contenders. He was able to climb from open division. I think he's one of the few players who actually was in open division at one point and made it all the way there. And then he's done really well and getting to, I think, a few pretty close finals and stuff like that. And then Picky, he's a 2-time contenders champion in 2 different regions. So I think they both bring a lot. But I think the one thing that I really hope to get across, and there's a language barrier, so it can be a bit difficult sometimes, but Piggy is hilarious. Piggy is so funny. And I think some people saw that from the event on Monday that we had, Taste of What's to Come, but the team loves him. And I feel like it's a great balance because Jonggu's kind of more of a straight shooter. I would say he's not, it's not like he's just a wall. He's got a personality too. He's a really fun guy, but he's really just all about the grind, all about improving. And then Piggy kind of balances them out. It's like a perfect duo. And I mean, you see them in game and your Instagrams and can't leak anything, of course, but
right.
So that kind of leads into my next question, though, because I know that
we'll edit it out. Just leak it. Just leak it.
I know that we're all excited for this year's upcoming roster, as a whole, but I want to know, are there any Outlaws players in particular that you just can't wait to see in action, and why?
First one is Happy, because he was a nut on the charge, and I think he has gotten even better. I think Jake, he's a player coach, and I think some people might not know exactly what his role is, but I think him being a coach actually is one of the most amazing things ever, because he's a former player, so he can really talk about his own experiences, but also he knows exactly what the players are going through, so he can kind of reel them back in and be this is why this was wrong, and this is what should be done differently. And I think you can be an amazing coach, but if you're not, if you haven't actually been in the Overwatch League, it's still there can be just a bit of a disconnect sometimes. But I think that Jake isn't Happy's already amazing. I think all the coaches have helped him lock him to each he's already at Super Saiyan 3 basically, and now he's somehow going now to Super Saiyan, I think Blue is what it's called, something like that. I haven't watched Dragon Ball Z in a while, so that's one. I mean, I want to see both the new tank players. I think that they're kind of a question mark for a lot of more casual fans, but I've seen them in contenders and both of them shredded. And the fact that they've already played together, like we talked about, is incredible. So they already have that synergy coming over. And then, I want to see Juby more. I mean, I'll always remember him from the Triumph meme more than anything else, but he's just an amazing guy. And I think they're it's him and the tanks that are always players are oh, we don't know, but he did amazing in collegiate. He did amazing in contenders when he played there. And I think, Crimzo has that experience. Crimzo was amazing on Dallas. I think on Dallas, he was the standout player of Oni God last season. And I think that, having that experience, even as a rookie, having that partner, GB will just pop off because he's in a really good main support.
All right. So I know for a lot of people, casting games in real time can seem like a really daunting task. I know that you said at one point that going from casting 1 game a day to between 2 and 5 made you realize some of the flaws that you had as a caster. What other advice would you have for people who want to jump into the casting world but might be afraid?
Well, I mean, just practice. I think that's the biggest thing. There's so many community tournaments around, and I think that's a big part of why Overwatch League is, or just Overwatch in general, but also Overwatch League esports is so popular because people love being in these tournaments themselves. They love playing. and they want to be broadcasted. Everyone wants to see themselves play. Everyone wants to see themselves being mentioned, unless they're doing bad. Maybe they don't want to, but their community tournaments are always looking for people to volunteer and do that. And then you do that. You do like 1 or 2 games a week. You VOD review. VOD reviewing is super important. Go over it with someone who has a bit more experience. They'll be able to help you like figure out where you need to be working on, what you're doing really well. And then it's just a kind of a progression. Like you'll move up. And sometimes I know some casters like that I've worked with, I've been like, man, you're really good. Like you should try to work in collegiate. And they're like, nah, this is more of a hobby for me. So if that's kind of what you're looking for, like that's totally fine. It's a very good hobby. It's a very nice pastime. But if you want to move to the next level, there's always organizations that are going to be looking for casters to be joining, and casters come and go. I was of a few different leagues that I was doing weekly, and then when I left, there was a little bit of a vacancy that had to be filled, and they were able to find people to come in and take my place.
Okay. So before we get to our final question, we're bringing back a fan favorite segment from last year. Would you rather? So Jesse, are you ready to play?
Oh, I am definitely ready to play. Let's do this.
All right. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this segment over to Noob.
Alrighty. Okay, Jesse. So a couple of things. Would you rather is a very simple concept, right? I'm going to ask you a question, and it's a matter of, would you rather do this or this, right? Since you are our first ever guest, you get the option of choosing whether you would like to go first, second, or third.
Oh, wait, we're all answering?
Oh yeah, we're all answering. Just
what?
He forced this into the script at the last minute.
Oh yeah.
So that's where.
Okay, cool. All right, let's do this.
I want to lead the charge. I'm gonna go first.
Nice.
Bold. Okay, all right, here we go.
Lead the charge. I see what you did there.
Would you rather be in a hockey brawl against Bobby Orr of the Boston Bruins, or get blindsided by Patrick Chung, safety for the New England Patriots?
I think I'd rather get blindsided by Patrick Chung just because I played football for a little bit, and a lot of the time hits like that you don't actually feel until later on. It's just so instantaneous.
Yeah, in life.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, hopefully, I'd be able to be tackled cleanly and nothing bad would happen. But I feel like, in the moment, there's just so much adrenaline going. I feel like hockey brawls are just, kind of a mess, and it's not really a part of the game, so it's a very different kind of thing, and they can go on for a while. I mean,
yeah, how long is this brawl?
Yeah, how long is this brawl? Do we have a time estimate?
Well, it's Bobby Orr who's probably going to kick your ass.
Right.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Patrick Chung.
Okay, good call.
Who goes next?
I'm gonna go Bobby Orr just because I would like to fight against a legend.
Yeah.
Dude, I don't want to get blindsided because I played football for a few years, and dude, no, I'll take the hockey brawl and I'll just hug him so he can't really punch me that hard.
It doesn't work too now.
You know what? I'll make it work.
To beat your ass.
I'll make it work.
All right, cool.
I go from heck to beat your ass. Okay, dude.
Okay, all right, that's okay. We're starting off easy. We'll warm up a little bit.
I don't like blindsides. I've been blindsided a lot.
Okay, our second question was actually submitted to us by Krerex, member of the Lone Star Vanguard. And her would you rather is,
great cosplay.
Would you rather join Blackwatch or Overwatch?
I'd rather join Blackwatch. I mean, Jesse McCree, share the same name. He's a cool dude. I'd like to think I'm a cool dude, but I think also just there's a lot of really interesting lore that I wish I knew more about. I wish I knew more about Reaper and Moira a bit of that relationships and how that fell apart and how Blackwatch was canceled. And I think just it'd be a lot more fun to do something a bit more secretive and behind the scenes than be a hero for the world to see. Because I mean, Overwatch in general was they were shunned by the end, right? And everyone knew the people that were more public about it. But Blackwatch, maybe I'm able to slip out the door as things go haywire.
Yeah. Okay. James,
do I get to be a Crusader? That seals the deal for me right there. If you get to strap me in Crusader armor and give me a hammer, I'm in. But I'm going to Overwatch.
I imagine a Crusader isn't very stealthy, so I don't think they're a part of Blackwatch.
Yeah, no, I'd be Overwatch at that point.
Obviously, later Overwatch writers might retcon me, but we'll see.
Was Blackwatch or Overwatch?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'd love to be an Overwatch hero. Yeah, hell yeah. I don't know what I would be though. Personally,
Blackwatch. I'm with you, Jesse.
Heck yeah, let's go.
Yeah. Plus, Black is very slimming. COVID is a thing. Gained a couple of pounds, so let's go with Blackwatch. Alrighty, and our third and Final would you rather is: would you rather lose to Dallas in the opening game of the season, but go undefeated the rest of the stage, or beat Dallas and have a losing record by the end of the stage?
Oh, definitely lose to Dallas and then go undefeated. Like it's a rivalry game,
Right.
and I don't think we're gonna lose. By the way, I'm gonna knock on wood for that. But I think especially with stuff we just already talked about with XE, like I feel like this would be a game that I already felt pretty confident we'd win, and I'm now even more confident that we will win it. But I mean, a rivalry is cool, and it would stink to lose that game. But in the end of the day, beating Dallas is not going to win us the championship, or at least not in this. There is the Lone Star Challenge, but that's something separate, which we already won, by the way. But but yeah, like I mean, you take that one loss and it burns, but then you beat the Shock next, and then just keep rolling with it. Like that sounds like gravy to me.
Yeah, I
Cool.
can see that.
Cool.
Tuna?
Oh yeah, easy. I'd rather sacrifice Dallas. It's like, and then go undefeated.
I feel like my pride's getting in the way because I'm just like, I would just want to beat Dallas. It's just that Texan pride swells up at that point.
That's
I'm
such
like,
an easy trade for me.
Yeah. Same.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. I'm a little torn. Because it's it's Dallas.
There's no way you would want to go losing record compared to undefeated.
I said I'm torn between it. By the way, it's not how you start; it's how you finish, right? So we can have a bad stage 1, but then make it up the stage 2, 3, and 4, right?
I've had enough losing seasons as an outlaw.
Okay, so it's about time to wrap up. But before we go, obviously you can't share any Outlaws secrets, but it's no secret that being their social media manager, you do get to work with them in a professional capacity. Can you tell us a little bit about what it's been like and maybe why we should be so hyped for the start of the upcoming Overwatch League season?
Yeah, so I started working at the Outlaws about, I guess, 3.5 weeks ago now. So I did 2 of those weeks remotely. I only moved to Houston last week, so I haven't been able to spend a ton of time with the players in person just yet because they're really busy getting ready for this opening week. But I mean, it's been really cool just to get to know them a little bit, get to meet them as people more than just players. And I think the biggest thing, honestly, is that they all love each other. Like they're gelling so well, and I think you don't have that if you're not doing well. Like I feel like you can like people, but there's probably a little bit of hostility if things aren't going super great in practice. And when you see how they interact in social media and the event that we did previously, like they're all having a pretty fun time with each other. All that stuff I think adds up to really great results because I think it's just beautiful to see people bond like that.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show this week. Like, it's been a blast having you. It's been a blast getting to know you. I know that we're all excited. We're right around the corner from the beginning of the season, so we're all got that nervous Outlaws energy where we go at the beginning of every season. We're like, is this it? Is this our season? Or can we do it? And it's a great.
Can I ask Jag a few questions? Just like 5 rapid fire.
Sure.
Okay. All right. Muse or Radiohead?
Muse.
Halo or COD?
I never played Halo, so COD.
Paris or Horizon Lunar Colony?
Oh, Horizon Lunar Colony.
Fallout or Elder Scrolls?
Oh, Fallout. That's a hard one, though. They're both so good.
Ooh.
I just love New Vegas too much.
New Vegas?
Yeah, New Vegas.
New
Such
Vegas is a
game.
great one. All right, that's everything that we have for the show this week. Jesse, thank you so much for coming on to this show. You've been an absolute legend. Just so before we go, pimp yourself out. Where can people find you?
Yeah, absolutely. You can follow me at JAGCasts or JAGCasts, just all one word on Twitter and Instagram. You can find, the Houston Outlaws social media. That's where I'll be most of my days. But I just want to remind everyone we've got some great events coming up. I believe this is airing Thursday. So tomorrow we do have the Battle for Texas tailgate. It's going to be amazing. We're going to be playing some custom games against Dallas fans. We're also going to be having a watch party for that first game of the season. So you want to be there. There's going to be some prizes, and also the content creators from the Most Wanted contest will be there. And Sunday obviously is the game against the Shock. We might be doing some stuff for that as well. And for me personally, I'm actually going to be returning to casting very briefly for a special event Saturday. I'm not sure if this will be announced by the time we get there, but I'm actually casting the Boston Uprising Collegiate Cup semifinals and finals. So I'm really excited to return to the casting desk for that event. And thank you to the Outlaws for letting me do this event. It's very cool of them to let me work for another organization briefly.
Well, thank
It
you.
really is.
Well, thank you so much for your time. We do have to wrap this whole thing up. You can find us for the Lone Star Vanguard over at lsv.gg. We've got all of our creds on there. That way you can find our Discord and come join in the Outlaws conversation with us. You can also find me on the Surly Nerd podcast. I do a weekly nerd news podcast. You can find me at the Surly Nerd on Twitter or thesurlynerd.com. You can reach out to us if you have any questions about the Outlaws or anything that we do for our upcoming shows. Just go to email us at info@thesurlynerd.com or just hit me up at thesurlynerd on Twitter. Until next week, thank you everybody for joining us. And until next time, heroes, good night and good game.